A cheer went up at such marksmanship, but Nat's comment drew an even louder roar of approval. "Watch your tongue, you scoundrel!" shouted a farmer, catching sight of Kit's flustered face. "There's a lady present." Nat twisted his head the inch or so that the boards allowed him, and stared at her without the slightest recognition. Her presence had spoiled the sport. The servant boys drifted away, and presently the three prisoners sat for a moment neglected. Impelled by some urge, half pity and annoyance, Kit came forward from the shelter of the trees. Nat watched her come, without a flicker in his blue eyes. Now that she stood directly in front of him, she could see the bruise that a careless missile had left. Suddenly she felt the tears rising. "Kit, for heaven's sake," hissed in an exasperated whisper. "Get away from this place, quick!" Deliberately Kit stepped closer. She marked the way the tight boards were chafing the hard brown wrists. "This is horrible, Nat," she burst out. "I can't bear to see you in this hateful thing." "I'm quite comfortable, thank you," he assured her. "Don't waste your pity on me. 'Tis as roomy as any ship's berth I've slept in. Isn't there anything I can do? Are you hungry? You can stop trying to be a lady of mercy. 'Twas well worth it. I'd gladly sit here another 5 hours for a sight of Sir William's face that evening. He was impossible." With a flounce of petticoats she turned away. It did not help to note that her foolish concern had been witnessed by a whole group of early lecture-goers. This would certainly give them something to wag their tongues over. Head held high, she forced herself to keep a ladylike pace. At the doors of the meeting-house she stopped to read the posted notice, which read, "That was stealing pumpkins from a field, and for kindling a fire in a dwelling, they 3 shall be seated in the stocks from 1 hour before the lecture till 1 hour after, that they shall pay a fine of 40 shillings each, and that they be forbidden hereafter, on certainty of 30 lashes at the whipping post, to enter the boundaries of the township of Wethersfield." Kit's courage failed her altogether. She simply could not go into the meeting-house. She could not bear to see there and hear the sentence read aloud. She could not face the family, or the whispering and staring that would turn her own family pew into a pillory. Gathering her skirts about her, she hurried across the green skirted the square in an arc, and fled home to her uncle's house. It was the first time since she had come to Wethersfield in the spring that she had dared to miss a Thursday lecture. The family had already left the meeting-house, and Mercy, busy at her spinning, did not hear her return. Kit crept up the stairs, but the empty bedchamber was not the refuge she needed. She had to talk to someone. Mercy would listen with gentleness, of course, but how could she ever explain to Mercy about Nat? There was only one person who could understand. "It is a good chance to take Hannah the piece of cloth, anyway," Kit reasoned. "At least this one afternoon I could be very sure of not meeting any seafarers' friends." She stole down the stairs again, and took a winding path through the back meadows to Blackbird Pond. "Don't fret, child," Hannah said philosophically, when Kit had poured out the story. "The stocks aren't so dreadful. I've been in them myself. But Nat is banished from Wethersfield. He won't be able to leave the ship, or to come to see you any more." "Well, now, that is a shame," agreed Hannah, unperturbed. In spite of her woe, Kit had to smile. Why hadn't she remembered that ever since he was 8 years old, Nat had been finding his way to Blackbird Pond through devious meadow routes? Hannah knew that no threats could keep Nat from coming again. As always, here in this house, things seemed to look much less desperate. "This William Ashby," Hannah said thoughtfully. "I never heard Nat mention him." "He had come to call the night that Nat walked home with me. Nat met him there." "Does thee mean he had come to call on thee?" "Yes." Why hadn't she ever told Hannah about William? "Is the young man courting thee, Kit?" Kit looked down at her hands. "I guess you'd call it that, Hannah." Hannah's shrewd little eyes studied the girl's downcast face. "Does thee plan to marry him?" she asked gently. I don't know. They all expect me to." "Does thee love him?" "How can I tell, Hannah? He is good, and he is fond of me. Besides," Kit's voice was pleading, "if I don't marry him, how shall I ever escape from my uncle's house?" "Bless thee, child," said Hannah softly. "Perhaps 'tis the answer. But remember, thee has never escaped at all if love is not there." Presently Kit opened the door to Prudence's timid knock, and was comforted by the pleasure that rushed into the child's face. Prudence had further news of the culprits. "Nat won't be able to come to see you," she told Hannah. "They marched the 3 men of them straight down to the landing and put them to the Dolphin." But Nat waved to me as he went by. "You know Nat?" Kit asked the child, surprised. "Of course I know him. He comes to see Hannah. Last time he listened to me read." Why should it disturb her to think of Nat's sharing the reading lessons? Kit wondered, trying to be reasonable. How many of his visits had she missed? She was a little jealous to think of them, all her cosily together, while she had hard work in the cornfield. Annoyed at herself, she picked up the seal wrapping bundle. "He sent you a present, though," she told Hannah brightly. Hannah ruefully surveyed the length of gray woolen. "Now, isn't that kind of Nat?" she exclaimed. "So soft and tight woven. Much too fine for the likes of me. But thee knows, the truth is, these old eyes of mine can't even see the thread of needle." "Then, Prudence, I will make you a dress," promised Kit blithely. "Can you sew truly?" demanded Prudence, overwhelmed at still another accomplishment. "Of course I can sew. I've never made a woolen dress, but I learned to embroider before I was your age. I'll borrow a pattern and scissors from Mercy, and you'll see." While the reading lesson began, Kit spread the cloth on the floor, turning in this way and that, and she had been seen Mercy do, trying to plan how to use the length to the best advantage. The idea of cutting and sewing a dress by herself was novel and exciting. "Will you really let me sew some stitches?" asked Prudence, watching her with shining eyes. "Really and truly," promised Kit, smiling back at her. What fun it would be to make something warm and pretty for Prudence, she thought with longing. Did they never give the child anything decent to wear? Those skimpy sleeves did not even cover her elbows, and the scratchy linen wool-sleeve cloth kept her thin shoulders constantly twisting. Goes from to 71. When 71 is nearly ended.